Scott, let's start with you if we can here, and get your preliminary thoughts on this topic. I know this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart too. You do some work in this area, the reexamination after the fact, and I think you do it on both sides of the V, as it is. So what are your thoughts on this preliminary?
You know, reexamination, I think, for a while after the AIA was somewhat of a forgotten practice, and you know, recently it's been reinvigorated. I think first by the discretionary denials that, as we discussed yesterday, you know, if you went to the PTAB, filed your IPR, and you know, the PTAB basically comes back and tells you that, well, we're not going to look at the merits because of these policy reasons, and therefore we're done. I think as a patent challenger, the mindset is, well, I've got a 103 case here. It's probably not going to win the day in the district court. Even if Ex Parte is not as robust because I can't participate, you're right, I may as well file it. And so I think that started to drive the numbers up somewhat in terms of, you know, people finding a use for re-exam in sort of a PTAB dominated world, and some developments have happened since then. I think some of the member organizations have started using re-examination as a tool. I think there's also been an uptick on double patenting after in-ray select. So the numbers last year were, I think there was maybe a 15-20% uptick on filings. And so, you know, from a objective viewpoint, you know, I think stakeholders are finding you know, more use for re-examination in those contexts. I think the one that we tend to talk about more so than all of that is those PTAB petitioners that go to the board and actually get a merits-based determination that, you know, you missed, your grounds aren't good enough, go away, and right, there's no estoppel that sticks to that determination at that point. So then, you know, maybe a year, in some of the cases I've been involved in, a year or two later, when you're on the verge of trial, suddenly a re-examination pops up from that failed petitioner, and then that re-examination goes forward, and there may be some attempt to avoid the trial. And I think that is sort of the circumstance that's been seized on by some of the legislators in the Prevail Act and in other spots, that, you know, maybe that's not the way we want the system to work. You know, I think the big picture is whether, you know, as an outsider, as a legislator, as someone on the Hill looking at this system, does it make sense that on the one hand, that the Patent Office can make a policy determination in the case of Fintiv, which I'm not a big fan of, but they made that determination, then you can go ask someone else and you'll get a different answer. And, you know, the Patent Office could stop that, right? If you read Vivint, it states that, you know, although 314A is particular to AIA trials, it's not to say that those factors never matter in re-exam. But as you know, Gene, the director would not only have to step in and say that we're going to start treating some of these re-examinations differently. Now you run into the politics of, we're taking work away from the Patent Examiners Union by, you know, cutting off some of these re-exams. And, you know, unfortunately, the practical implementation of some of what probably should work, you know, absent some kind of legislative mandate, you know, is not really feasible